Hi, my name is Chad Bettis, and I'm the author of The Disciple Making Parent. And this is my audio blog, where I read some of my blog posts in audio format for your convenience. Well, in today's episode, we're going to be thinking about how churches can care for their pastors' children. A young pastor recently asked for my advice over lunch. His church plant was maturing, and he was looking down the road. His own children were ages 6 and 4 and 1, and knowing the problems that pastors' kids can have, he wisely desired to cast a vision of care for his children. You know, too many children of pastors are casualties in the spiritual battle. After seeing the inner workings of the church, many don't want anything to do with the Lord or His people. I know as a teenager, I almost walked away from my faith because of the hypocrisy and disunity I saw in my church. But in my conversation with this pastor, I was momentarily speechless as I realized how little I had thought about that important question. Why? Well, because the church that I had shepherded for 25 years had done an excellent job caring for my own children. Today, they're 22, 20, 18, and 16. Well, that's not true. As I'm reading this, today they're 30 and 28 and 26 and 24. But they have fond memories of our relationships there in that church. What had my own church done that so few churches do well? And what can churches learn? Let me give you a word to the congregation here. You see, these children running around among us are precious to God. One day they will not be 6, 4, and 1. They'll be 26 and 24 and 21. In the meantime, they're watching you and listening to you. And by that observation, they're deciding if the gospel is real. Jesus said, quote, "By this all people, including these children, will know that you're my disciples if you have love for one another." And that's found in John 13:35. What will they say about your church when they're adults? How did you help or hurt their walk with Christ? Well, here are some suggestions. Number 1, give grace to the pastor's children on Sunday. You know, Sunday's a work day for his family unlike any other person's work day. While her husband is ministering, a wife is parenting alone. The pastor's kids are often the first ones to arrive at the church building and the last ones to leave. You can minister to his family by giving his children grace, talking with them, and enjoying them. When his children are young, you can also offer to help. So 1, give grace to the pastor's children on Sunday. Number 2, if you have a concern, talk to your pastor about behavior that characterizes the children, but do so with an attitude of love and acceptance. You know, as a shepherd of my family, I wanted to know when my children acted up, but I also knew any report I received was from an adult who cared about me, who knew that children will be, well, sinful children. They didn't look at my children as PKs or pastors' kids, but only as kids. You know, the issues that should concern us are not individual actions, but behaviors that characterize a child. The phrase managing his household well, 1 Timothy 3:4, refers to the father, not the children. It doesn't mean a pastor and his children are perfect. It does mean that he handles problems, true problems, well. So if you have a concern, talk to your pastor about behavior that characterizes his children. Number 3, be generous in your praise. Respect is especially important as the children grow older. You know, a pastor's children will soon figure out that their family doesn't drive the newest car or take the fanciest vacation. But if others verbally expressed respect for the pastors, then the children's view of their parents will rise. Men especially who express respect to a pastor's son can make a large difference. Number 4, limit church criticism and complaint to private conversation among adults. You know, every group of people will have its problems. Issues will need to be aired. You can see that in Acts 6. But know that young people are watching how the adults are handling these problems. As a teenager, I was keenly aware of the conflicts and hypocrisy in my church. So make sure you keep these comments among adults. Take any issues privately to the leadership. Don't make sniping complaints to young people or in the hearing of young people. So number 4, limit church criticism to private conversations among adults. Number 5, be brave and rebuke the critics. Unfortunately, not everyone in the congregation will follow this suggestion. When grumbling and fault-finding spill over in front of you, speak up. Tell nitpicking Nora not to talk in front of the children, but speak directly with those in charge. Reminder that these are just children. The souls of these little ones are precious and need to be guarded. A united elder team can be especially helpful in speaking to any who engages in unwarranted fault-finding. So, be brave and rebuke the critics. Number 6, give your pastors room to deal with their children's hearts. Older children will go through some spiritual ups and downs. How will you think about those bumps? With care and affection, or self-righteous judgment? Your pastor's children are like all of us. They're in the process of becoming like Jesus. So you can embitter them with sharp comments, or you can love and accept them as they grow into adulthood. Pray for them regularly by name as they make this transition. So number 6, give your pastors room to deal with their children's hearts. And number 7, give your pastors margin to minister to their family. Children need their father, but many leaders will be tempted to neglect their families to meet the unending needs of the church. Carping and demanding church members will make the temptation even greater. Even as a church member, you can encourage your pastors to care for their families. Are they taking their days off? Are their vacations uninterrupted? Don't demand that they minister to your crisis at the expense of their own family. So number 7, give your pastors margin to minister to their families. Well, we want to influence well. By God's grace, my children have no bitterness from my 25 years of pastoring. They know their church wasn't perfect, but they look with admiration and affection on these aunts and uncles in the faith. Church member, someday, the young children in your church will be adults. They'll be spiritual soldiers or spiritual casualties. And yes, you will have an influence on that outcome. They're watching you and listening to you. Use that influence well. Well, if you enjoy today's post, then check out the Disciple Making Parent and all of our resources there to help you pass the gospel to your children. And don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast player. I'm Chap Bettis. Thanks for listening.